Welcome to the Marshall Pruitt Podcast, presented by Cooper Tires. This episode we have an in-car audio treat of the IMSA GT Le Mans variety. Actually, we're going to do back-to-back features here. The first one we're going to kick off with the incredibly complex sounds of BMW's brand new M8 GTE, run by the BMW Team RLL entry in IMSA. Absolutely gorgeous motor, done in a hot V arrangement. That means rather than having the exhaust headers and turbos coming out from the heads on the bottom of the car, as we normally see in most turbo installations, we have things inverted with the turbochargers inside the V atop the car, along with the exhaust. On the bottom side, actually, we have the intake plenums, where that boost is fed into just a truly ornate motor to look at. Big stump-pulling beast of a thing as well, and with the way they have things laid out in the gorgeous, and I love a big brawler like this, by the way. I mean, the little svelte, tiny, waist-high cars, those are cool too, but I also love seeing a big bruiser like this BMW in IMSA action. Has a common exhaust outlet running from the engine bay down through what would be the passenger seat. There's a big rectangular channel cut into the car, and that's actually where we have our in-car audio recorder placed, just a matter of inches away from the very end of that exhaust tunnel and outlet, so you get to hear everything as it is coming out of the exhausts, which is pretty cool. Rarely do we get to get this close to the sounds coming out of the exhaust in one of our in-car audio features. Other thing we get to hear as well in the car driven by John Edwards and Jesse Krohn at Mid-Ohio during morning warm-up for the race itself is a lot of electronics at play. So if you've heard this car trackside, you'll note that it is very quiet, a little bit, I don't know if I want to say odd sounding, but it does some really interesting things purely from an audio standpoint. But get inside, and it's a completely different experience. Probably the greatest change from what you would hear trackside to what we hear inside the car itself. And it sounds like a V8. It sounds like a turbo. It sounds like it has beyond cutting edge electronics, keeping the turbos spooled up when the drivers are off throttle, and just really trying to make sure that all that 500 plus horsepower is on tap at all times. So that's what we hear from the inside. And also rolling around Mid-Ohio, which is a fairly busy track. To me at least, you get to hear the drivers working a lot. You hear the motor doing its absolute best, again, to keep up with all of their instant and immediate demands. And so between the driver's work, the engine's work, and the electronics doing everything it needs to do, it's really complex stuff here. So I hope you enjoyed again from the IMSA round at Mid-Ohio in May, and then we're also going to have a brand new sound perspective of the Ford GT, which we captured. That's going to follow right after this. During this month of July, our friends at the Justice Brothers, with their additives, lubricants, and cleaners, they're not only known as America's brand for quality, but they are used in a variety of racing pits and paddocks, everywhere from IndyCar to sports cars and IMSA. They're part of the Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac program, for example. Big friends, good friends, ones that have come on board here for the month of July to support the Marshall Pruitt Podcast. The other thing that the Justice Brothers are trying to do this month, other than just being good patrons of the sport, is to encourage those who might have an interest in expanding or starting your own small business by becoming a distributor and dealer for their line of automotive, semi-truck, agricultural, and industrial products. To reach out to them and check out more about the Justice Brothers on their website, justicebrothers.com. Final note here, you can always get every episode of the Marshall Pruitt Podcast on iTunes, on Podbean, also on Spotify, which is a new option, and Google Play. And if you happen to like what you hear, would strongly request that you share it with others as we try to grow a little footprint here in motor racing podcast land. All right, off we go from inside this gorgeous BMW M8 GTE, wielded by John Edwards and Jesse Krohn from the Mid-Ohio IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship event in May. And that was the sound of BMW's M8 GTE, twin-turbo V8 awesomeness. Some great talent behind the wheel as well around one of North America's classic road racing circuits. So I hope you enjoyed that. Going to get the in-car audio from the Ford Chip Ganassi Racing GT number 66, driven by Joey Hand and Dirk Mueller here from the same event. And that was placed in a very different location than we did the first time at Circuit of the Americas 2 years ago, I believe. So I'm thinking you're going to enjoy that one as well, simply from the pretty awesome location that we were given by the team. As mentioned in the open here, our friends at Justice Brothers would definitely love to hear from you if you are indeed interested in becoming a dealer and distributor of their line of automotive, semi-truck, agricultural, and industrial additives, lubricants, and cleaners. And if you have a passion for racing, again, they're a company that is fully invested in motor racing, so if that is your particular angle, you might have something fun and cool to do there too. Just check out justicebrothers.com. Alright, I'm Marshall Pruitt. This is a Marshall Pruitt podcast presented by Cooper Tires. Thank you for listening.